Intriguing. Welcome to the Right or Die Show. I am your host, Randi-lee. On today's episode, we're going to be talking to Shannon Carroll. Welcome, Shannon. So excited to have you on the show.
Yay. Thank you for having me, Randy. I'm really looking forward to chatting with you.
And I mean, everybody will see this, but Shannon has a cute little puppy that's going to run around in the background, and hopefully that we can see him again because he's so adorable.
Yeah. He'll be walking through here in just a minute.
Yes, excellent. And what is the puppy's name? I did not ask.
Well, his name is Raider. And that's the name he had when we got him from a shelter when he was just a baby. So he's got us all wrapped around his little paw.
That is usually the way it goes. Yes. So we know that you are a dog lover, but what else can you tell us about who you are?
Thank you. I don't know if I'm a dog lover. I tolerate him, although he probably loves me more than I love him. But I know, just being honest, right? We got to keep it real here. I am a pastor's wife. I live in Southern Indiana. I have a stepson and then 2 boys still at home, 5th and 6th grade. I homeschool them. And my background is actually in medicine as a registered nurse. Although I was able to come home from the hospital almost 5 years ago because of a network marketing business in the essential oil industry, which was unexpected. I just love how our journeys take us in places we would have never dreamed possible. So I'm a full-time mom and entrepreneur at home and just loving life.
Wonderful. So tell us a little bit about homeschooling, because I mean, I know it's not exactly related to the show, but I know when we homeschooled sort of on and off because of just the history with the education system and my kid with autism. And that comes with its whole own kind of stress, and that stress can lead to mental health. So it's related in a roundabout way, and you're the first guest to mention it. So please share with us.
Well, fun. So I was homeschooled from 6th through 12th grade. And I had an amazing experience. My mom was like the best of the best homeschool moms. And it was such a good experience. Like I got to travel internationally and I got to graduate early and job shadow with an obstetrician. And I just did so many fun things that I always had a dream of being able to do that for our kids. But when early on in their schooling, we just weren't at a place I had to work outside the home. And so they went to public school for a while. It was a great school. But when I was able to come home full time, that allowed me to homeschool them. So we're going on our 5th year of homeschool, and it's not for everybody. It is not easy. Today, they're at a cottage school. So one day a week, they go to this cottage school and take some extracurricular classes.
Oh, very cool.
Thank you, Lord. It's good for them to experience life with a different teacher than me. Wearing the hat from mom to teacher and mom is really a challenge. And I find myself often saying, you wouldn't treat a teacher in a real school like that, like you're responding to me. So, when I say it's time for a math test, I don't want, oh no, can I do it tomorrow? Like you would never dream of doing that in a structured.
My kid would, but
there you go.
But I like where you're going with it.
Yeah, so we get some reality checks every once in a while, but I love being in charge of what they're learning. I love tailoring their learning to their own needs and also their own pace. Because with homeschooling, I can slow them down, I can speed them up, there he is, go in some different directions. So it's been an awesome thing for our family. We say that we're going to reevaluate every year and sometimes in the middle of the year. Like, is this still a good thing for us? Is it the right thing in this season? Are they getting their needs met? But it's been really awesome for us.
That's awesome. I love hearing stories like that because so many people think homeschooling is this certain way of doing things. And it's like, oh, there's so many different things and components of it. And it's really interesting, I find. So I'm so glad that you were able to share a little bit with us.
Thank you for asking about that. I feel a little passionate about like normalizing it. When I was growing up and I was homeschooled, we were kind of like considered the really backwards kind of kids. And we proved that we're functional, healthy adults. And I want to normalize it. Because if it's done well, it can be a really good thing.
Exactly. And I have lots of friends that actually homeschool their kids. So it is a really valuable option for some people.
Yes. Good way of saying it.
All right, switching gears now, let's dig deep into our mental health and share with us a little bit about your journey with it.
Okay, well, I am an author. My husband and I co-authored a book called One Thing Remains, one couple's traumatic encounter with amnesia and their life-changing journey to restoration. We launched this back in October of last year, and it details kind of an aspect of mental health for sure, because it tells the story of my husband, who, healthy guy, his brain shut down and he developed a pretty severe amnesia, and they couldn't find anything wrong with his heart or his brain. And so they said, well, it's probably caused by years of cumulative stress. And the brain finally said, enough. It shut down, and he could not remember the last 8 to 13 years of our life.
And how long had you been together for at that point?
We had been married at that point for 12 years. So he remembered me. He remembered, but he thought we were early married. He remembered all of our boys, but he thought that they were still in car seats. The younger ones were still in car seats, and they were 9 and 10 actually at the time. And so that's where we get our 8 years, is because he remembered the boys, but thought they were still little. And then the 13 years, we come up with that because he did not remember, he's a pastor. He did not know he was a pastor. He did not remember our church. He didn't remember any of the people in the church. He didn't recognize the church. He didn't recognize his Bible. He remembered none of that. And he had been at this particular church for 13 years. Wow. So life had been really stressful. We're just normal American family, right? Just busy and involved in lots of things, home-based business, homeschooling, homesteading, pastor life. And we had just been going, and had never stopped to take care of ourselves. We had never stopped to listen to the warning signs of stress. And one Sunday morning, I thought he was having a heart attack, and we got him to the hospital, and he became unresponsive on the way. And when everything settled down, we realized he had amnesia. So we wrote the book that tells that story and how life with amnesia was. We had no idea when his memories would come back, if they would ever come back. And so we had to go back to a home that he didn't remember. He walked in, and it's like he was seeing it for the first time, and said, what side of the bed do I sleep on? Which toothbrush is mine? What's the dog's name? Wow. It was so bizarre. He was emotionally detached from the things that he didn't remember. So he said, why do we have this huge homestead? Why are we doing so much? Why are you on your phone all the time? Why was I involved in this and this and this? Why don't we ever take vacations? So he was really analytical looking at our life during that time. Long story short, there's so many little snippets I love to share.
Oh, yeah.
But long story short, 26 days later, his memories miraculously came back in an instant. It was just a miraculous thing where, boom, every single one of the memories were unlocked. And he's completely fine today, totally fine. He remembers before amnesia. He remembers not remembering. He remembers everything since then. It's been a wild ride, but that experience gripped us and got our attention in a profound way. We sold our house. We decreased our stress immensely. Yeah. We started doing things like walking and evaluating life and getting rid of things, because we cannot go back to that place again.
Yeah. So you started doing a lot more self-care.
Big time.
Something I want to point out for everybody watching, listening right now, is that self-care is not selfish. All right. And this is the perfect story to explain that, right? When you are just under stress, overworked, constant bombardment, that is internalized in your body or in your brain, or, however it is. I remember now, you would probably know better, having been in the medical field, But in psychology class, I remember we were cramming for a test and that it's all about the hippocampus for memories because you would never forget a hippo on campus.
I love it. I love it.
So, certain parts of your brain, like the hippocampus, right, can just shut off or do whatever it is that happened to your husband. Like I said, I'm not in the medical field, but when you're not taking care of yourself, you cannot take care of somebody else.
Absolutely. And we learned that in our culture, stress is worn as a badge of honor.
Yes.
What do we say to each other? How are you? I'm tired and busy, but we say it in this way, like that means that I'm being productive. Or even in my world as an entrepreneur, it's like, oh, you're always going, always doing, always producing.
Yes.
And we wear that proudly. Yeah. And some stress is healthy, but a lot of stress is not healthy. And we were not meant to live a stressed out life.
Yeah. So what are some ways, and I mean, you've shared a little bit, starting to go for walks, decreasing stress, getting rid of things. What are some of the key self-care habits that you have incorporated?
Number one is adequate rest. We underestimate the value of sleep. And prior to Amnesia, David would come home from work and say, I need to take a nap. I need to just lay down. And I would look at him like he was being a lazy bum. Like, come on, I'm out here, I'm working with the boys. We got a bunch going on and you're in there sleeping. And now I realize that was his brain's way of saying, I need to reset. I'm dealing with too much stuff, and sleep is how the brain resets. So now if he comes home and he says, I need to lay down for 30 minutes, I'm like, please, I'll keep everybody quiet. You just go lay down.
Yeah. Love naps.
I'm a big type A personality and list maker, and I want to see productivity. So one thing I have done is if I'm feeling the stress, I will turn my to-do list over and go take a nap in the middle of the day if I need to. We are real strict on our bedtime, making sure we get to bed at a decent hour. I use a lot of essential oils to make sure that I'm sleeping well through the night. If I want to get up at a certain time each morning, but if I know I've been through a couple of rough days, I'll allow myself to sleep in a little bit more, because sleep is where your body heals and where the brain processes what it's been through. So we prioritize sleep now like we never did before.
I love that you've brought that up. You're one of the first people to really talk about that. And it is so important because a lot of people, like you said, they don't prioritize sleep and they don't see sleep as a valuable use of their time.
Right.
But it is so important. My mom always says, you were always a sleeper. Because me, I love sleep. It's bedtime, okay, night.
That's my favorite time of the day.
Love naps. I can tell when my body, and it's not even my body that's tired. Like I said, it's that brain. It's just, I need to reset. I love the way that way that you said it. I need to reset. And I'm a huge proponent of naps. If you have the opportunity to take them. I mean, when I was working a desk job, I couldn't do that. But now that I'm self-employed, I'm like, all right, it's 1 o'clock. Let's go, puppies, in bed. Power
nap for sure. Yeah. And we all need 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And, there are seasons of life where you've got to stay up late and crank out a project or two. Yeah. I get that. But as a habit, we were meant to take time out. It's actually a gift to be able to sleep and just let our bodies reset.
Yeah.
So that's one way. Our diet, we eat for brain health now, and we avoid things that cause our bodies to experience more stress or to crash. We exercise, so we're outside, we're getting sunshine. Just simple walking a few times a week has helped. Sitting on the porch in the evening and just not doing anything, stepping away from the productivity, having a safe place, a friend to talk to and share about life. Those are all things that we've done. That's
awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those tips. And getting outside in the sun. So it's cloudy today for me. But this weekend, I mean, Sunday it rained like all day, but Saturday was so nice out. And so we were able to finally get outside after, our dreary winter here. I mean, our winter wasn't that bad, but it's still not sunny in the winter so much, right? So it was so nice to be able to get out. And you can feel the difference just going outside.
Absolutely. That's why people move to warmer, sunny climates in those winter months, because it does have an impact, not just on our physical health, but on our emotional and our mental health in a big way. So when it's sunny, we try to be outside as much as possible because we want to stay happy and healthy.
Exactly. So I love that tip. Everybody needs to get outside when there is sun and enjoy it, because at least I know where I am, as soon as winter hits and the days are shorter, everybody always complains, oh, I miss having the sun. Well, when the sun is here, then get your butt outside and enjoy it.
Exactly. It's free. It's a free resource. Sleep is free too. So, we don't have to spend tons of money on all kinds of things. There are simple things we can do with our lifestyle. As I mentioned before, we went through a huge evaluation of what's important, what's not important. We ended up selling our homestead, and we had valued, it was part of our identity to have this self-sufficient, self-sustaining homestead with chickens and an orchard and a huge organic garden. And
wow, that would be a lot of work.
It was a lot of work. And David's like, why are we doing all of this? I said, well, it was your idea. And he said, well, I took on too much. And so we had to get rid of things that hurt a little bit, things that were part of our values, but we decided in this season, it can't be the priority. It's not as important as our health and our family.
Yes. That is, again, very important to realize that as life changes, it's okay to change with life. It's okay to reprioritize.
Yes. Yes. That's a constant evaluation that we're still doing to this day. So we moved into a smaller home. We have less things that stress us out. But when we're starting in a season and we start feeling those symptoms of anxiety, of depression, of being overwhelmed, of nitpicking at each other, of needing excessive amounts of sleep, like our radar goes off and we're like, something is not right. We got to make a change right now. It's warning signs that our body's giving us.
Yeah. And it's great that you have started to recognize those warning signs. And that comes a lot with that mind-body connection that I've talked about in other interviews. It is so important. That's why a lot of people find meditation to help with that, because it gives you that mind-body connection and awareness. But listen to your body, guys. Like, that's very key. Yeah. So I know that we were talking before the interview really started recording, and you were explaining about how, big excitement with this book launch, and I'm looking forward to getting my copy and reading it. It sounds very interesting. I don't know anybody who's ever had amnesia, so that's very interesting. And that was just last October, right? You had this big, nice launch, and then you were saying it hit you.
Yes.
We'll talk about that.
We started writing the book at the end of February of last year. And so if you remember what happened in March, the country locked down and we're in the midst of a big change for all of us in our lifestyles. And so we started writing in February. So we're writing a book. We're reliving this story. David and I actually found a lot of healing from what we went through by writing it and then by reading each other's perspectives, because he didn't realize I had been feeling the things I was as we went through amnesia until he read about what I wrote, and same for him. So we're going through a lot there. There's the COVID lockdown. We moved at the end of March, beginning of April, sold our home and moved.
So right when COVID was like shutting things down.
Yes.
Wow.
So we had a lot going on at once, but yet we had these big goals with our book and our book coach that we were working with. And so it was plow through and crank it out and write it. And the process of writing was emotional too, because we were reliving what we had gone through. So we finished writing in June or July. It went through editorial boards. We got with our publisher. We went with a hybrid publisher called Ignite Press. They were awesome. But then it moves into layout and editing and cover design and marketing and getting your email list and building up for
That's all the part I hate.
What?
That's all the part I hate doing. I like writing it. After that,
I enjoyed it, but it was all encompassing. I thought once I'm done actually writing it, that the work is over. No, it just cranked into a new level.
Yeah, that's
And
the easy part.
it actually is, yes. So then we were going for a #1 Amazon bestseller launch, which we got bestseller in 9 out of 10 categories, woohoo! And I think 14 hot new releases. So it was really exciting. But there's all of this launch promotion and marketing and all the things. So I was fine through all of that. I loved the process. And the book launched, it did great. We had a couple of weeks of like this euphoric high. Like we wrote it, it's out there, it's in people's hands. That was a little bit weird, realizing that our vulnerable, raw story is now in people's hands and thinking at any moment, is someone reading my book right now? And what are they thinking about me? What are they thinking about our story? Anyway, had this high for a couple of weeks. And then I crashed. I absolutely crashed. I liken it to the whole book writing process was like being pregnant, and you're getting bigger and bigger. It's becoming more of a reality. You feel the baby, you give birth, you've got this baby. It's so exciting. And then I had postpartum depression when it came to our book launch and the aftermath of it. And I think I had just worn myself out and hadn't listened to my own advice that I was writing about, didn't have enough margin in the writing process, and maybe such high expectations and high energy for the launch that then I couldn't stay there, and I just crashed. So my hormones got super out of whack. I had to go see a doctor about things that were just not right with my hormones. And they likened that to stress. I got vertigo really bad, which again is likened to stress and hormone malfunctions. I was like, I don't know how much TMI you want, but I was gaining weight excessively and could not lose it. I was exhausted, so tired with no energy, very, very irritable, and just at a low, not really down, like life was really dark, but just stick a fork in me. I'm absolutely done with life. And I hadn't expected to feel that way. It caught me off guard, which probably made it a little bit more extreme. I didn't know where it was coming from. Is this normal? And I find out, yes, other authors go through this, and they actually talk about it being the postpartum depression of launching a book, that it is a real thing. So it's taken me about 6 months to actually get back to where I have a lot more energy again. And I'm excited to tell our story, promote the book, and be out there like I was before.
So over the past 6 months then, from experiencing that, what was it that you did to overcome it?
Really good question. I gave myself permission to rest and to step back even more from production and life. I took myself off of all social media, which I had built my business, built our brand, done the book launch through a very effective social media strategy. It was a huge part of my life, but I took a sabbatical from social media for 3 months. I'm just getting back onto social media. And that was a huge breather for me, to not feel pressure to be or do anything, but to just be fully present in the life that's here in front of me. I read a bunch of books that I enjoyed reading. I started a walking mission for myself, a walking challenge. I started being able to lose weight. I rested. I gave myself permission.
That is so important. And I mean, I feel like we've mentioned that before with when we were talking about the amnesia and the self-care part, but giving yourself permission is all encompassing, because we put so much pressure on ourselves. We are our worst critics, right? We are never easy on ourselves. And I don't know why. We really should be. We should be our best friends. Right? We should not be our worst critics, but we are. So giving yourself that permission to do whatever it is that you need to do, whether that's permission to nap, permission to step back from social media, permission to
organize my pantry. That was a really big win for me.
I did that, I think, was it last month or the month before? And I was like, oh, so good.
Yes.
Every time I'd walk into the kitchen, I'd see that cupboard, I'd be like, oh, I don't want to.
Right.
So it's simple things like that, like reorganizing a pantry is relieving.
Yes.
So
I had friends for coffee, to just, I felt like I had more time for people and relationships that were important to me and that were in my inner circle once I stepped away from production and social media. And that was life-giving for me.
Yeah. That is great advice. It really is. What would you tell somebody who's listening right now that's going through their own kind of struggle? What would you tell them?
I think the word that I used earlier is really important, where, at least for my personality, I gave myself permission and grace. And like you mentioned earlier, we tend to be the hardest on ourselves, and we need to give ourselves grace. We've received so much grace. I believe in my faith journey, I've received so much grace. Why can't I then give it to myself?
Yeah.
And then also give it to others. But for someone else that's going through it, give yourself permission, give yourself grace. I love being able to step away from life for a couple of days or a week. If you need to do a retreat by yourself or go to a hotel room by yourself overnight, to just step away from the day to day and get perspective on what's going on. I also am a huge believer, I think with my medical background and also in my world with the essential oils and the natural living, I don't want to treat symptoms. I want to get to the root cause. So when I was having hormone issues, it was real tempting to just want to treat the symptoms. And I had to do some of that to stop the craziness from happening. But ultimately, I wanted to know why. Why do I have the vertigo? Why are my hormones out of whack? Mm-hmm. And it took time to reflect and decide, okay, it's stress, and it's actually just pure exhaustion. My body's exhausted, and I need to give it time to recover. We put margin in our day-to-day schedule, but I don't know that we allow ourselves to put margin in our month-to-month schedule to get away. That was one of the things David said when he was in the hospital. The very first day we realized he had amnesia, and he's learning about our life, and I'm trying to figure out what's going on with him. And he said, do we ever get away? Do we take vacations? And I said, well, last year you got 4 weeks off from the church, and we took 2 of those weeks and we used them for a business trip for me. So nobody could take vacations. And from every single day, he said, we've got to get away. We've got to get away. We have to step out of this life here to be able to get some clarity on our life. And friends provided a trip to us to Florida while he had amnesia, and his memories came back the day before we left that trip.
Oh.
We were in Florida. They came back on the balcony as he was having his quiet time. So getting away was part of the healing journey that he needed for amnesia. And now we prioritize that, whether it's I need to go get a massage, or we need to get away for a weekend or a date night. That helps you get clarity. When we stay on the rat race, the wheel, we're doing the same thing and getting the same result. We got to dig deeper.
That is wonderful advice. And I know, right now where I am, we're locked back down, so won't be going on no vacations. But at least with the nice weather, and we talked about this before, go outside in the sun. And so last year when we couldn't go on vacation, we spent the vacation money to do a nice porch outside. Yes. So this year, again, we can't go on vacation, but I can leave my phone inside and go outside. And then I'm disconnected for 20 minutes, an hour, however long I decide to stay outside until I get too hot and just be burnt. Then go back.
Yes, I love that. That's so good. We had Easter weekend, which is a big weekend for a pastor's family, and so I blocked out the Monday after, and I said, we're staying in our pajamas, we're putting our phones away, there's no schedule on that day, because I knew we needed margin to fill back up.
Yeah, that's so true. If you know that there's some kind of big project or big family gathering, my child does that too. We've realized because of her disability, when we do have a big family get together or a big event, so a graduation or Christmas or a dance recital when he used to do dancing, and we would go, okay, the next day we are doing nothing because he can't go back out. He needs time to recharge.
Yeah.
And that's fine. And learning that was so important. And it's great that you bring that up because even though we do it because he has autism, anybody could do that.
Right.
I love doing it for myself too, going, oh my goodness, I just had to be at my in-laws for a long time. And I mean, I love my in-laws, don't get me wrong, but it's still a lot of stuff to do, going out of the house and just, so the next day it's nice to just relax.
Yes.
So that's great.
Permission.
Yeah, permission. I love that word. I think we all need to start using it a little more and give ourselves permission.
Yes.
Now, where can people pick up your book?
Awesome. Amazon. It's super easy to find. Just One Thing Remains is what it's called. There's a cool story. You have to figure out what remained. There was one thing that remained in his memories when everything else was gone. So that's why it's called One Thing Remains. And just look it up from David and Shannon Carroll. And we would be honored if people would pick up the book and share it with a friend, leave a review. Our goal in writing it was our story was so impactful and we learned some huge life lessons that I know everybody needs to learn.
Yeah.
And by listening to our bizarre story, it opens the door for people to receive those lessons. And our goal is that others can implement them without having to lose their mind in the process.
That is a really important message. Yeah. And social media, you're back on it. So where can people follow you?
I'm on Facebook. It's Shannon McCain Carroll on Facebook. Instagram is at David and Shannon Carroll. We have a YouTube channel, David and Shannon Carroll. I'm on Clubhouse now.
I'm on Clubhouse too. We got to follow each other.
Yes, yay.
I had to go and buy an old iPhone because I'm an Android user, but I did it so we can.
I like that. Yes, I'll look you up. So it's Shannon.Carroll on Clubhouse, LinkedIn, all the places. And then our website is davidandshannoncarroll.com.
Awesome. And of course, as always, all of those links are going to be down below in the description. So make sure you click them on whichever platform you use most, or heck, even if you don't barely use it, but you have an account for it, go ahead, give Shannon a follow.
Thank you.
Thank you so very much for being on the show.
Well, thank you for having me, Randy. I'm thrilled about your mission. I would have never known that this was a need until I walked through it myself. So you are meeting the need for a lot of people and bringing light to things that maybe have not been talked about in the past. And that bringing light to something is transformative. So your show is in the transforming business, and I'm happy to be a part of it.
Thank you. I hope everybody enjoyed that interview. Shannon was a great time to talk to. Love her puppy in the background. So adorable. And of course, remember, hit up her links down below in the description. Show her some love, follow along. And once I do read that book, I'm going to be sharing the review with everybody. So be sure to keep your eyes posted for that as well. And remember that the only way to end the stigma with mental health is to speak openly and honestly.